It's not enough as a writer to know what you intend to tell your reader. You actually need to know a lot more and not tell the reader, but you still need to know it. I think it was Humphrey Bogart who told one of his leading ladies that if the script called for her to walk into a room and then perform her part in the film, he said she needed to know not just her part in the script. She needed to know her words, and she needed to be able to perform her part in the script perfectly. But she also needed to know where she'd come from. What was the room that she walked out of before she walked into that room? Why did she walk into that room at that time? What was she going to do before she was interrupted by the demands of the script? And I think that that's actually what we need to know as writers. We need to know so much more. Now, I write poetry mostly. I write a lot of things, but my first love is poetry. And I do tend to write poems based on things that have happened to me, or things that I've seen, or things that I've read. There is a core of reality there. And I write a lot of first-person poetry, but the narrator isn't me. And I've got to be really, really clear about who the narrator is, what they're telling, the story that they're telling, the situation into which I have put my little bit of reality. It isn't surrounded by my life anymore. It's surrounded by an entirely independent life of the narrator. I remember once I gave a poem to a group to critique, and I was having problems with the title. Well, I was having problems with the poem, but I asked for suggestions for the title. And one of the people in the group said, oh, well, the poem was about two cats. And I did indeed own two cats. But Jim, one of the guys in the group, said, it would really help to give you a title if we knew what your cats were called. And I sort of took a step back and went, well, my cats have these names, but the two in the poem, they're Mulder and Scully, and they're both tabbies. They're a brother and a sister. They're from the same litter. And I knew all about these cats, but that didn't describe the two cats that I owned. I had taken an example of something that my cats had done, and I'd thought it through, but I'd created it, I'd pushed it away from myself, and I'd created these two different cats with a very different owner. And if I hadn't been clear about that, it would have been so easy to own that, to keep it really close, and to let the reality just overflow and overwhelm what I wanted to write as a piece of art, as an independent poem. The thing is that we're writing art. We're not writing reality. Even though we want to create a reality, it's not usually our own reality. So if you're writing a novel set in Hong Kong, maybe you have the good fortune to be able to go and visit Hong Kong and actually be there and soak up the atmosphere. But novels take a long time to write, so it's unlikely that you will spend the whole time while you're writing a novel in the location where it's set. And unless you're one of those people who still write with pen and notebook, most of us sit down with a laptop frequently in the same place, whether it's at our kitchen table, whether we have a dedicated studio, or the favourite corner of the coffee shop. We often go to exactly the same space to do our writing. And the problem with that is that whether you're writing about two cats in an English village, or you're writing a novel set in Hong Kong, or you're writing about the Amazon jungle, you're actually at that same table in that same coffee shop. So you need to try and create an atmosphere that will put you into that space and remind you that it's not this little coffee shop or it's not this kitchen table. And it's easier to do this atmosphere creation. It's probably easier to do if it's your own space, but to some extent you can do it anywhere. If you think about what would the sounds be like in this reality that you are creating in your work? Can you get a soundscape from Hong Kong? Can you listen to the right type of music that would be playing in the space in that English village? Have you got the church bells ringing in that English village? Have you got the bird song from an Amazon rainforest? Listen to that. Block out the sounds of the cafe. Focus on the sounds of where you're writing about. Now, if you're writing about the seaside, maybe if it's your own space, I don't suggest you take a handful of sand and put it on the coffee shop table. They probably wouldn't appreciate it. But if it's your own space that you're writing in, there's no reason why you shouldn't have a few pebbles just to pick up and have that moment of touching something that belongs to the space that you're writing about. A postcard of or a set of postcards of the most important places in that particular seaside town. What else? What are the scents of that space? Can you somehow recreate those? Now, the sense of smell is an incredibly evocative sense. If you smell, I don't know, your favourite school dinner, if you're walking past someone's house, you'll find all your memories of childhood come tumbling back. Or if it's your least favourite school dinner, you'll probably then be taken back to the other little child who bullied you at school and when you hadn't done your homework and all the bad experiences as well. Scent is very evocative. And of course, it's something that we can't include in our writing. But if we can use it to help us to focus, to help us to create that atmosphere, if you've got a heroine, does she wear perfume? If you were out in the street, would you smell that perfume? Would you recognize your heroine if she walked by you? Would you know that that was her scarf, that was her perfume, that was, I don't know, that was the way she walked? Some people have very distinctive walking patterns. Could you recognize the people from your story if you met them in the street? What else do you know about your heroine? Do you know what her birthday is? What's her star sign? Does she care? And if she does, is it coherent with the character that you've created for her? Or is she always saying, well, I thought I should be like this because I'm a Leo and I've been written like that and it doesn't work for me? I don't know. These sort of things, these details about your characters, you don't need to tell your reader. But it will help you focus, it will help keep you on track, it will help create the rounded characters. But maybe their birthday never comes, maybe she is a Leo and so her birthday's in the summer and you're writing about a Christmas scene or a Christmas adventure or something, in which case her birthday isn't going to come into it at all. But you know that, and you know it doesn't come into it. It isn't just you think afterwards, oh, actually, I thought that she was born on January the 2nd. Why didn't we mention it? Because you already knew and you'd moved it away. You didn't need to have that information in your writing. Now, 2 examples that I'll give of authors who definitely knew that there was more and they weren't going to tell. There's the Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening by Frost, the poem. And it ends, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. Now, Frost himself is said to have told someone, if I had wanted you to know what those promises were, I would have put them in a poem. That doesn't mean that he didn't know. I suspect that he had a very good idea what they were, but he left it for the readers to complete that themselves. Another example, there's a story by Isabel Allende, and in Spanish it's called Dos Palabras, 2 words. It's a short story. She never tells you what those words were. And I've read that story, and I am pretty sure that I know what those words are. In fact, I'm convinced that I know. I obviously can't actually check that. I suppose I could write to her, but I don't think she'd reply. I think that if she'd wanted me to be 100% certain, then she'd have said what those words were. But as it is, they're just dos palabras, 2 words. And it's up to the reader to infer that information. So what I'm saying is that as a writer, we need to have a lot more information than we put onto the page. A lot more than we put into our poem, our short story, and novel. In the same way as Humphrey Bogart said that room in which the film set happened and the script was spoken is not enough. That his leading lady needed to know what was outside, where she'd come from, what she was expecting to happen. We need that information, but we don't need to tell every last part of it to our readers. We need a world in which our writing takes place. We need to understand it. The more we understand it, the better the chance that our readers will actually interpret what we do write in the way that we intended them to.